Hello, my name is Kenneth Braswell. I am the CEO of Fathers and Families of Georgia LLC, and I'm also the founder of the Season Collective. And I wanted to take a moment with you to talk a little bit about my why, because you see all this stuff about the Season Collective, about the book Two Seasons to Care, and you're wondering, what is this about? And why is this about what it is about? Look at my hair. Look at my gray hair. Look at my scruffy beard. you know, that's all seasoning. I stopped using the word old because we're not old. Old is relative. Old compared to what? Right. And so, but what we are and what I have discovered in my own life, and that is that I am seasoned. And so, about 2 years ago, I went on a writer's retreat to sharpen my skills in writing a memoir. And I was invited there by my good friend Kwame Alexander. You've heard of him. If you haven't Googled him, he is probably, along with our good friend Jerry Craft, two of the most prolific children's books writers out there today. And went and spent some time with him and some new friends up in Cape Cod, learning and talking about how to might write memoirs. And so at the time, my idea was I wanted to go and I wanted to write this book about fatherhood because that's the professional space that I sit in. But in a presentation of something that I wrote, we were talking about that particular piece, and someone said something, and it sparked this thing in my mind, and it was just like, whoa, that's a whole storyline that I haven't talked about with respect to my life. And that is embracing this whole notion of being older. Because as I looked around the room, that's kind of when it hit me. And there's this moment where you feel like the old guy in the club if you are seasoned at my age, and everything looks baby young. Everybody looks, you just feel like you're out of place. And the thing about that is there is absolutely nothing you can do about it because seasoned is seasoned, right? You can't unseason. Well, you could, but I'm not going there. So this was all earned, every last bit of it, and I am embracing it and honoring it. But in that conversation, we were talking about, um, or I was talking about being older. And so when I came back home and I started to begin to write the book on the fatherhood stuff, my mind wouldn't break from the season conversation I was having. And I began to start thinking about my life, and I started thinking about how I became who I am. And so there was a pivotal question that I asked myself. And the question was, can you remember the first time that you cared about how someone either saw you or thought about you? And as I contemplated that question and did a rewind into my life to try to discover when that time was, the time that I identified actually wasn't the time, right? But it was only in the exploration of my life that I was able to dig back to see where the beginnings of me caring about how people saw me and thinking about my behavior. And so fast forward almost like a year after that, I finished writing this book, Two Seasons to Care. And it really is an exploration of my life, rediscovery, trying to figure out what has made me who I am. Why do I care about the things I care about? And what is the meaning of the purpose in my life? And why does that matter? And as I began to share that journey and that story with others, it was resonating so deeply with people that my mind was like, oh, you need to do something deeper with this. And part of that, which you should be doing, is creating a community. That community is called the Season Collective. And so I am now building that. This is the first step in doing that. I've created some products, including the book, a workbook, and some tip sheets, and I'm continuing to build. and I've done several trainings that I've written, on different subject matters as it relates to that. Because what I've learned in the conversations that I'm having with people is people want help with purpose in their lives because they've done everything that everyone has asked them to do. They've made the money, they've raised the kids, they've been good citizens, they've volunteered, they've done all the things that everyone has asked them to do in life. But now they're empty nesters. The kids are going to college, they're getting married, they're having babies, they're going on and living their own lives. And now you're either sitting back in this hollow space and you're trying to figure out what's next. What do I do now? And how do I build on the already existing meaning in my life? Or how do I find my new purpose or expand on my existing purpose to really feel like this is not a time where I'm just waiting for the end, right? Because that's what young people think. Young people think that once you don't have any responsibilities, is now you're just the old folk. All you need to do is just take care of my kids, give me money when I ask for it, and be quiet. And so it's almost like we're the children again. But anyway, that's what I want to be able to do with the Season Collective. I want to build a community of like-minded people that are professionals, that are people in life that have accomplished a lot, and now they're sitting and they're trying to put meaning around their lives. And I also want to be an inspiration for those who are not so seasoned, but are beginning to think about this time in their lives and how can they get to this point in their lives where they don't have to reassess their purposes and their callings in life. And gaining and gleaming from our wisdom, which is the thing that I really want to highlight of the Season Collective. I really want to take the wisdom that is a part of the community to be able to share it with others, to be able to help others figure out their purposes in life. I remember my daughter when she was leaving her school after the first year to pursue her purpose. One of the things she said to me was, Dad, I don't know what my purpose is. All my friends know what their purpose is, and I don't know mine. And I've often had people ask me, how did I find my purpose? And there is a process to understanding your purpose, and there is a um, adjustment to framing your life in a way that you really begin to understand what your purpose is. I have a training, that if you sign up for this and you take the first training, I'm going to take you down this journey and you're going to make sense out of your lives and you're going to be able to make sense out of the lives of others. And you're going to live a much better, joyful life, not a happy life, because happiness is fleeting. But joy is sustainable. Joy means that you can be settled in your life and joyful even when chaos is happening around you. And that's really where I want you to be. And so the epiphany came when I stopped asking myself, what do I do next? Because I am, towards one would say the end of my professional career, although it feels like it's the beginning because I got new ideas, big ideas, continuing ideas, and I want to do so much more. But I also know that I have more years behind me than I have in front of me. That's just a reality. And so in Two Seasons to Care, I want to walk you through my life as a companion to your own life so that you can juxtapose things that happen in my life to things that happen in your life in order to connect the dots. And we're going to walk through a journey that's going to help you be able to do that. And I can tell you that in the year that I was writing this book, I learned so much about myself. Goodness, man. There were nights where I was writing something and I would go back and read it. And I was like, wow, I never thought about that before. I never considered that that was something that was impacting my thoughts, impacting, my actions, my reactions, and it was just a matter of me going back into my life and following my journey through and making sense out of it so that it made sense to me. And so there was a conflict at the end of the book that I also want to get people to, and that is the title is Two Seasons to Care. And when I started the book, I had this notion that I wanted to really talk to people about why I don't care about things anymore. Because one of the things that happens when you get older, you find clarity. And when you begin to find clarity, and you're not so connected to how people see you and what people think of you, there's a freedom and a liberation in that that will make people think that you don't care about anything. And it's not that I don't care about anything, because I had that's the path I had to walk down, which is it's not that I don't care about anything. It is just I am firm in my foundation, and there is nothing about how you think about me that's going to impact how I think about myself. And that's where people need to be. And that's where the Season Collective is going to help. That's where purchasing my book, Two Seasons to Care, is going to help. That's where the workbook is going to help. That's where the trainings are going to help. And that's where the insight and the community is going to help. And so we're building a whole apparatus, around this to Care book, through the Season Collective, and you're going to hear the word season a lot. Put seasoning on everything. And so, but that's just the brander in me, right? That is the setting the brand so that when you see it, you know where it comes from. But I just wanted to share that with you so that you have a good sense of what it is I'm trying to do, where it came from, and my excitement and expectation about where this can go. And so thank you so much for listening to me. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer, just go to our contact me page, drop your questions in there. I'll answer as much as I possibly can. Get in on this first webinar, and download, the first free um, gift I have for you. And so let's, as the young folks say, let's go.